It is time, everyone, each and every one of you, that we get serious about our soul missions. My guest today shared that this has been a loud and clear message that's been coming to her for the last several months now, that everyone has a mission and they are being called to that mission right now more than ever. Today, I have Jo Stuart, who is passionate about getting everyone shining their light and doing what they came here to do. Each and every soul is part of that great grand plan. And even if we don't see how important it is from our perspective, it's like a jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces matter and fit together. I'm Jennifer Regular, the host, and I am so thrilled to welcome all of you to this episode of Awaken and Descend. While you're here, make sure that you subscribe so you can continue to get these amazing stories and tips from transformational mentors from all around the world. As I mentioned, Jo Stuart is my guest today, and she is an intuitive healer and spiritual entrepreneur. Her passion is working with healers, readers, and spiritual teachers to maximize their soul mission success and to have the impact that they know in their hearts that they are destined to make. Before beginning her spiritual work as a healer and channel back in 2012, Jo was a languages teacher. She now works online, supporting clients all around the world in her home by the sea in North Wales, UK, in fact. Jo, it is so wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining me today and all of us.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. It's lovely to meet you.
Yes, and lovely to meet you. And I love how aligned we are in encouraging people to step into their spiritual sovereignty, to become connected and embody their soul's mission, because you're right. It's so important right now that we really step into that light and be able to shine it and share the gifts that we've been given with the world, even though our minds can get in the way a lot of the time, telling us that, we don't have it all together yet, or we experience some interference that blocks our progress. And I'm really curious, Jo, what lit your path? What got you working and going in this direction where you're helping people with their soul mission success now?
It was really something that hit me out of the blue. It wasn't something that I was expecting. I had been working with people for years, healing them. And I suddenly realized that I had been doing this all along, but not noticed that that's what I was doing. And so I was aligning people with their path, helping them to do what they were supposed to do. And it was beautiful to watch their transformations and to see how brave they were to step into, their new roles, their new missions, their new paths. And so it just seemed like a really natural progression, but it just came totally out of the blue for me.
Yeah, and that's often what happens, right? There's like this wake-up call in a sense, or something is activated, and then the path just seems so clear. And it's only when we start stepping on the path that it does become clear that we actually create the way. I remember Rumi talking about, well, I wasn't alive when Rumi was, but I remember reading how Rumi would talk about when we start on the way appears. And it's just that courage and the curiosity to move forward. But along the path, we meet a lot of obstacles too. And I'm curious if that's ever happened to you, Jo. Have you ever encountered obstacles or things that get in the way that made you question what you had heard or what you experienced in that moment where you knew what your soul's mission was and then started to wonder whether that was really true?
It's happened to me several times where I've wondered if I'm doing the right thing. And I think it's really common for people to feel that way because very often what their soul and their intuition is telling them to do is totally contradictory to what's going on around them in the world, what other people might think, what their current day job might be. It just defies logic a lot of the time. And so we have to trust. And I think that the biggest part of our journey is that trust in the unseen and the unknown. Trusting in ourselves is so hard. Did I get it right? Do I know what I'm doing? Am I good enough? Am I capable? So we are bombarded with obstacles, but it's all part of the journey, really, because those challenges and obstacles really show us what we're made of. and we overcome things that we never would have imagined had we not been taken down that path.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're right. It's trust. It's trust that gets us through all of that. And I know I like to work with affirmations and guiding principles that kind of just help me set the tone, those remembrances, instead of following all of these thoughts that are in my head that can steer me off track. I like to try to stay on track by using these affirmations and guiding principles. And one of them is I trust my intuition even before it makes sense. Because our minds want to make sense. We need to know, we need to be logical, we need to feel secure in what we're doing is the right thing. But really, our inner knowing, our intuition knows us so much more than we think we do, that we know. And I find when I can connect with that and follow it, even before it makes sense, that so many amazing things happen. Like things unfold in a way that I've never expected. But I too have had those experiences where I feel blocked. And I find that often happens when we start gaining momentum into something, that there's either the self sabotage or we encounter some sort of resistance. And really, when we look back on the law of physics, that's the way things work. That's how we know we're moving ahead, moving on our path, because as we move forward, there is that resistance. And so it's actually a good sign. Sometimes, though, it could mean, some time for reflection and reevaluation and really reinforcing whether this truly is what we're doing. How dedicated and devoted to the path are we? And it's not always easy. I mean, look at what happened to a lot of the ascended masters before us and what they encountered along their paths and their journey. And yet I find, like, especially with purpose-driven entrepreneurs and spiritual change makers, that we need to kind of hold that vision, right, for what people can't necessarily see. And that no matter what happens, no matter what obstacles we encounter, that there's some kind of call, something that continues to pull us forward and that we feel drawn to. And so, what are some of the things that you've noticed having worked with your clients, Jo? What kind of things come up for them, and how have you helped them through that?
I think there are really common threads that come up for people, and it's often around the practical arrangements, how to make things work in the physical world. And also, a lot of the time, it's mind thoughts and those voices that might tell us that we can't do this. Those kinds of things stop people, or can stop people. And so, a lot of the time, the things that help the most is when I share my own experiences, because everything that I do is based around what I've experienced, what I've been through, and I'm really just a couple of steps ahead of the people I'm helping. And so I can help to reassure them and guide them in the right direction, even when they can't see where they're going. They might be walking blindly through, but I can hopefully shine a little light that will help them to make their way along their own paths.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot of courage even to reach out to a mentor, to a coach, or to a therapist, or reach out for any kind of help, right? And that just shows that we are dedicated to our path because we want to be able to move forward. We want to be able to share our gifts with the world and put our work out there. And so it's great work that you're doing. And I'm curious, what helps to see that light? Like, what kind of things would you tell someone who feels very heavy and in the dark right now and everything seems obscure and they're not seeing clearly? What kind of support or guidance or words of wisdom would you share?
I think it's really important to guide people back to themselves in those moments. I think usually those kinds of moments happen when we've lost sight and we need to draw all of our attention back in from all the outside distractions, from anything that might be going on outside, and bring the awareness back in, because that's where all of the answers are. And we have all of the answers within. And I think it can be really tempting for people to reach out to a reader for answers, and they forget that they are capable of finding the answers themselves, especially the people that I tend to work with, those who are healers and helping other people. And so it's really important that they practice going within and finding the answers themselves. And it takes practice, it takes time to build. It's like a muscle, you have to flex it to make it stronger. And so you might not get it the first time, but just keep trying, keep building that muscle, keep connecting with it, and keep reminding yourself, I need to connect back with myself and I need to find the answers myself, and I can do this. And so it's a lot of reassurance, guiding people back in so that they can find the answers that they need, because nobody else has the answers for them. A good reader can help, but ultimately we have to make the decisions, we have to take the action ourselves, and so we have to rely on ourselves for those really important things.
Yeah, yeah, and like you say, it comes back to trust really helping us through, and alongside that, faith, right?
Yeah.
And there's an acronym I really like for faith. I don't know if you've heard this one before, that it can stand for finding answers in the heart.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and it really relates to what you're saying, Jo, about coming back in, turning inward once again. 'Cause we get so externally focused, it can be confusing and chaotic and busy, and we
Mhm.
forget. We forget, and you're right, to come back to remembering and coming back into our heart and being able to trust again and have faith, find answers in the heart. I love that so much. And yeah, our hearts are so tender, aren't they? And I
Yeah.
think we're really feeling that the energy, the world energy that we're all absorbing, whether we're aware of it or not, can be very taxing, very draining, and it's a little heartbreaking, actually.
It is. It's
Yeah.
so true what you say, actually, because very sensitive people, I think that the tendency can be to close off, especially now because things are really tough. It can be really tempting to close off, and we might even close off without realizing it. And so we lose connection that way. And so if we're aware that that might happen, then hopefully we can put things right. If we do close off, we can start to open up again.
Yeah. And how do we, Joe? How do we turn things back around and come back inward and connect with our heart, connect with ourselves, and be in right relationship with ourselves?
I think that's a really personal answer. I think different people have different ways. For me, I work with crystals a lot,
Hmm.
and I like my guidance cards. I've got some here as well, some of my oracle cards. So it doesn't always work first time to try to get my way back in, but I just persevere and take a little moment every now and again to connect with my crystals or to connect with the angels or to work with my oracle decks. And yeah, just gently nudge my way back in, I suppose. And so, different people might have different ways of doing their thing. And so just keep doing little bits in the right direction.
I love that, Joe. And it gives us something to hold on to, literally and figuratively, right? You hold on to your crystal. We can hold our heart. We can hold the cards and see what kind of, wisdom comes through that. Or hold our beliefs and having that faith. Like there's something to hold on to. And it doesn't have to be like a grasping, attachment sort of thing. It's just something that we can hold to remind us. And objects like crystals have so much healing properties. I'm curious about the one that you have in your hand right now. Which one is it?
This is a fluorite. So it's good. I'm using it to help me concentrate and to channel through what I need to say in the right way.
Oh, perfect. So what's it telling you now? What's coming through?
To trust myself.
Yes, yes, to trust ourselves, to trust
Yeah.
ourselves.
Not
Yeah.
think about it too much. Actually, fluorite is really good for thinking, but this is telling me not to think too much.
Okay.
just to let it flow through.
Yes. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts going through my mind too. And I remember being in a meditation class, and the instructor advised actually counting our thoughts. And I remember that was the first time that I was actually able to clear my head and not think so much, because then the focus was on counting my thoughts. And I found like there wasn't too many to count anymore. It just shifted everything. So that's another little mind trick for you all
That's a
right
really
there.
good one.
Count your thoughts. And
I'm
it's
curious to
interesting.
know how high you got up in the numbers before you stopped counting, before
Yeah,
the
not
thought
very
stopped.
far. Yeah, like it was, I actually think it was 17 the first time. And then when I practiced that after that, it's like on one hand now, like it
I'll
just
try
shifts
that
everything.
one.
Yeah. But like you say, it's going to the spiritual gym, like it's practices and you just keep
Yeah,
doing it. The repetition really helps, right? And then it becomes easy, it becomes routine then. And it's
yeah.
just so natural after that. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, and it reminds me too of why counting sheep works, right? When you're trying to sleep. Although we heard that when we were much younger, but we don't really use that anymore. Maybe we should go back
I
to
think we
that.
should, yeah.
Yes, because it's one side of our brain that's counting the sheep and the other side of the brain that's visualizing the sheep. And so that helps to balance our right and left brain hemispheres as well, and that kind of calms the mind and gives us an objective focus and concentration. So that's interesting.
Love that.
Absolutely. And so we're talking about soul's mission, though. Why is now so important to tap into that soul mission and really start living it? 'Cause it's true. I've seen a lot of people making that shift from the career to the calling, or especially corporate to calling, and people are feeling drawn into a different way of being and living in the world and being unsatisfied with the way things were up until this point. And so what's happening now, Jo, that there's this huge call for us to step into our mission?
I could talk quite a lot about that.
Please do.
I could the energies have been building for a long time to get us to this point. And the way that I see it is that it's pushing everything to the surface, everything that's been hidden, any of the darkness, any of the icky energy, it's all been, everything that's been suppressed is being pushed to the surface now. And you can see as you look around your waking world, the way that that's manifesting, the things that are happening over the last 3 years in particular. And I think in 2020 we were kind of shaken, and it's a little bit like a bottle of pop or soda if you're in the States, and it was started to be shaken. But it's only now that we're trying to take the lid off in 2023 that it's really starting to kind of burst through. And I think a lot of people have had wake-up calls or are having them now. Yeah, you're right, we do need to do things differently. And so people actually have to take action. They've had time to think about what needs to be done differently, but it's time to start actually taking action on it. And we're not going to create the world that we want if we just sit and think about it. We have to do something differently. And I know that the people who I specifically am calling to kind of get on with their mission, they will feel it and they will know that they need to start to do something differently, that they're here for more. They might not know exactly what it is, and that's something that I can help with. But I feel that they will know instinctively that they need to do something, and they need to do something differently, and that it's time now. And they might not be sure, but that's okay. We don't have to be sure. We just have to know, just with a little bit of conviction there, that we need to do something.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious, for everyone that's listening or watching right now, do you feel called to something greater, that something needs to be lived differently or shared or expressed through you in some way, that you're looking for something more? We'd love to hear that in the comments. Of course, Jo and I will be looking at those. So feel free to
Yeah.
ask questions or comment or share some things that you might be experiencing or predicting or picking up on too. We'd love to hear that and keep the conversation going. Jo,
Yeah,
this has been such
absolutely.
a fun conversation. Yeah, and I'm curious, and I know you are too, about what might come through that. And I know that you have something to offer that we're going to put in the show notes to access. There's something that you have to offer the audience too, a download?
That's correct. Yeah, I have a download which I've created myself, and it's designed to help people who are just about starting or maybe are some way along the lines with their soul mission. It's called 6 Common Blocks to Soul Mission Success and How to Overcome Them.
Mm.
So this is based on my experience, and I give you the solutions to try to help you get out of those stuck moments. So it's really valuable for those people who are on their missions, wherever they are at, whether they're starting out or further along the line. I feel like we all need a little reminder sometimes. It's very easy to forget. And so we just go back to basics. It's a prompt there that you can print out if you like, to remind yourselves what you need to do.
Oh, so good. What a precious gift. And it's perfect, to overcome those obstacles and to align with our soul mission. So we're going to have the link for that, everyone, just in the show notes below. And Jo, how would people connect with you and
So
find
they
out
can
more?
connect with me. They can connect by my website. That's the quickest way. So I think you're going to put that in the show notes. Is that right?
I will, but tell us too.
Yeah, so my website is called intuitive-healer.co.uk. You can find out more about me, more about what I do, and you can leave me a message through that website on the contact page.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. I'll put the link there. And of course, how you can contact me as well. I'm Jennifer Regular, the Soul Illuminator at Lighting the Path. And of course, my website's lightingthepath.ca. That's in the show notes too, along with a couple of free guides for taking care of your soul and to be able to live your passion and purpose. So lots of freebies in there for you today in the show notes. And Jo, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
I just want to go back to something that you said earlier about the jigsaw puzzle, because that really resonates with me, and it's how I've described it in the past. And I love the way that you've just synchronistically brought that up. We are all little pieces of the same jigsaw puzzle, and we might not know who we're supposed to stand next to, and we might not know what the whole picture is, but we just have to trust that we are the right shape, we've got the right colors to fit into the whole plan. The universe knows what it's doing, so we have to trust our intuition to guide us where we need to go and what we need to do.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, we might not know the whole picture yet, or maybe we have an idea, but all the pieces are coming together. We have to act on it, right? We have to actually put them together, but everything's there that we need right in front of us. And so it's just having that framework. It's usually where we start in the jigsaw puzzle and then putting all the pieces together. I love that, Jo. I love you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you. And thank you for all of you that have been watching on Awaken and Ascend. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.